Welcome to Lingua Latīna tutorials with Mr. K, Pensum D. This video helps explain the new grammar and syntax found in chapter 38 of the Lingua Latīna series. It is meant to accompany the Latine Disco text available from Focus Bookstore and the Pensum D worksheets available from 50%latin.blogspot.com or christianlanguage.com. Let's get right into the text. Go to line 14 to begin. So here in line 14, we'll start at the beginning of the sentence in line 12. Sed rex ille infidus cum fortunam Trojanorum recedera videret, contra ius fasque Polidorum obtruncavit, et auro vi potitus est. We have, but that unfaithful king, when he saw that fortune was leaving, the fortune of the Trojans was leaving, or the good luck of the Trojans was leaving, against what was right and just, he killed Polydorus and took possession of his gold by force. So here, the new feature we have with auro, from aurum, which means gold, we have the ablative singular from aurum, as the object of potitus est. So you'd expect an accusative object, he took possession of the aurum, but instead you get auro, because potitus est is one of a group of verbs called the puffy verbs, P-U-F-F-V verbs. They are all deponent verbs that take ablative objects. We've seen them before. We saw uti, to use. We saw that use took the ablative. The full list includes potiri, to take possession of the ablative, uti, to use the ablative, frui, to enjoy the ablative, fungi, to perform the ablative, and then vesci, to consume or to devour the ablative. So again, puffy verbs take an ablative object, as we see here. In line 23, we have, let's go to delo. Delo relicta, cretam petiverunt, cuius insulae magna pars ab incolis deserterat. So after Delos was left behind, or after they left Delos behind, they headed for Crete, and of that island a large part had been deserted by its inhabitants. So here the new feature is we see with delo, delo being modified by relicta. This is an ablative absolute construction here, with literally with Delos having been left behind. And notice that relicta is feminine, and so we know that Delos also must be feminine. Most Greek islands ending in us and os are feminine, and you see up in the margin that Delos, Deli, is feminine. So Delos, this os ending, where does it come from? It's a Greek island. It's actually the Greek os ending, the Greek nominative ending. Normally, or often in Latin, the os ending would be turned to us, the normal second declension ending. So you'd end up with delus. But many of the Greek islands, by tradition, held on to their os ending nominative. And so the declension of those nouns, like delos, they also hold on to their Greek accusative. So we would have delos, delon for the accusative, and then deli, delo, delo. So they would be regular for the genitive, dative, and ablatives. So if you compare that to an island like Rhodus, the os did turn to an us. So for Rhodus, you get Rhodus, Rhodum, Rhodi, Rhodo, Rhodo. In line 43, we see another new grammar feature. Go down to 43. So we have quo facto patrem suum de de re certiorem fecit, qui sinemora terram elam longinquam quaerendam esse censuit. Quo facto, with that done, or after that was done, because he just, this was Aeneas had just finished praying. So after that was done, I'm going to be literal here, he made his father more certain about the matter. And he, his father, without delay, decided that that far-off land needed to be found, or they needed to head off. They needed to head for that far-off land. So here, this new idiom that we have here, certiorem fecit, certiorem from certum. It's here we have the comparative from certum. Certain. Here we have more certain, accusative singular. So he made his father more certain. It's an idiom meaning that he announced to him, he educated him, he let him know, made it more clear to him. And so it's a these idioms like this, while we can translate them literally to make more certain, it's usually best in a polished translation to render it as something more common in English, like to let him know. He let his father know, or made it more clear to his father. The next new feature is in line 64. And we'll start with line 62 here with Iam. Iam in medio mari apparevant, insulae arduae, Zacynthos, Sameque et Ithaca, regnum et patria Ulixis. So now we have now in the middle of the sea, the steep islands of Zacynthos and Same were appearing, and Ithaca, the kingdom and homeland or fatherland of Ulysses. So here the new feature is the form of Same, because we have Same, which is a nominative singular of an island, the island of Same, and Same, notice that it declines in an unusual way, the genitive being Sames, Sames, so Samos and of Samos. So the way, if we were going to decline Same, this is the Greek, another Greek ending that just carried over into Latin. We would use, we would have Same, and then Samen for the accusative, Sames for the genitive, Samai for the dative. So it would be a regular dative, AE, and then Same, the long E again, for the ablative. So again, Same, Samen, Sames, Samai, Same. If we're comparing that to Crete, a Greek noun that did turn into a true first declension noun, we would have Creta, Cretam, Cretai, Cretai, Creta, as opposed to this the Same declension. So the next new feature is in line 77. Let's go ahead here, where we have, let's start with line 76 or 75. Andromache and Helen, or Helenus. This is not Helen of Troy. This is Helenus, the son of Priam. So Andromache and Helenus. Here, an incredible story was brought to them. The story was that Helenus, the son of Troy, had gained possession of the kingdom of Epirus, and that he had taken Andromache as his wife, Andromache, the widow of Hector. So here the new feature is with the case of Regno. And so in Regno, potitum esse regno, he had taken possession of the kingdom. We saw earlier that the reason that we have an ablative here instead of an accusative is because it's with a puffy verb, and the puffy verb potiri takes the ablative. In line 77, 79, we have, let's start here with 78. Hac fama stupefactus Aeneas cuma viro ipso certior fieri cuperet, classe in portu relicta ad orbem progrediebatur. So, shocked by this report, Aeneas, since he wanted to be made more certain from the man himself, being very literal here, that's that same idiom before, as we saw before, to be made more certain. Here we have the comparative, the nominative comparative of certum. And so the way we might translate this in English, since he wanted to know for certain from the man himself. That might be a way that we could translate that. Because he wanted to know, he set out with his fleet left behind in the port, he set out to the city. So in certior is as I said, a comparative. We have fieri being the infinitive from theo, to happen or to be made. And one thing a little unusual about fieri is that it's one of the semi-deponent verbs, meaning that it has it does have some active forms, but its perfect system is passive. So if we were doing the principal parts of fieri, we only have two. We have fieri and then factum esse, and the other ones are the gas verbs. I call them gas verbs. Gas, gaudera, gavisum esse. That means to rejoice. Audera, to dare. Audera, ausum esse. And solera, to be accustomed. Solitum esse. So those gas verbs, those semi-deponents, only have two principal parts. They have some active and some passive forms. So looking at line 95, we'll have to go back to start the sentence. And we'll start with, I guess, postea. We'll start all the way up with illa. So, ilna vultum demisit et parva voca locuta est, se et Hellenum Troia capta a Pyrrho in Epirrum abductos esse, postea vero cum Pyrrhus interfectus esse ab Oreste, Agamemnonis filio. Agamemnonis filio. So let's go up here and let's just translate this part. So that woman, this is Andromache, she cast down her face, or she looked down and with a small voice said that she, all indirect statement here, that she and Helenus, after Troy were captured, were led away by Pyrrhus. This is the son of Achilles. They were led away into Epirus. But afterward, when Pyrrhus had been killed, or after Pyrrhus had been killed by Orestes, the son of Agamemnon, then we have Ellenum Caonia parte Epiri extrema potitum esse et se uxorum duxisse. That she goes on that after he had been killed, that Helenus took possession of Caonia, the far part of Epirus, the furthest part of Epirus, and that he had taken herself as a wife. So we have here Caonia as an ablative singular, as the object of another puffy verb, potitum esse. That's a new feature here. The next new feature is in line 103. So let's go down to... actually, we'll have to start with this one, up in line 101. So, priusquam inde digressus est, Aeneas a rege Heleno, qui divinamente numina foibi sentiebat, quae sivit, quae pericula sibi vitanda essent. So, before he left there, Aeneas sought from King Helenus, who himself was sensing or could feel the thoughts of Phoebus Apollo. He could feel them with his divine mind. He sought from him what dangers needed to be avoided by himself. So this is, here we have sibi, the reflexive pronoun, which means himself, both in the dative and the, well, in the dative, so we have se, sibi, or se, sui, sibi, se. So this is the dative case. Why is it dative? It's dative because it's a dative of agent with a passive paraphrastic, that these things need to be avoided, and then the thing that they need to be avoided by is in the dative case. Needed to be avoided by himself. Also note that the sibi here refers back to the person who's speaking. So he sought, this is Aeneas, sought from Helenus what dangers needed to be avoided by himself, referring back to Aeneas. Okay, the next new feature is in line 118. So here we have praestatotam siciliam longo curso circumire quam semel scilam informem videre et saxa ela resonantia experiri. So praestat, it is preferred, or it is better, to sail around the whole of Sicily by a long course. It's better to do that than one time to take a look at horrible-looking Scylla and to experience those resounding, those loud-sounding rocks. So praestat, notice that there's no subject for praestat. It's not Aeneas is preferring, or it's a what we call an impersonal verb. It is preferable. It is to be preferred to do this. So really the subject is it in English, but because there's no defined subject, we call this an impersonal verb. It is preferred. Line 133 has a new feature. So here we have post solis occasum en litus egressi sunt et fes in somno se dederunt. I guess we'll stop there. So after the occasum of the sun, after the setting of the sun, they went out onto the shore, and worn out, they gave themselves to sleep. So here the new feature is we have occasum, which is a noun. So post occasum, after the setting, and notice in the margin that it comes from the verb occidere, to set, or to fall, to set. So here we have occidere, to set, and the third principal part of that verb, occisum esse, to have been set down, to have been set. The supine, remember the word for the supine, this is the supine form. It's that participial form in the neuter accusative participial form, or nominative, occasum. So occidere, occidisse, occasum esse. So occasum here is our supine. These supines can form, verbs can form nouns of the fourth declension, like occasus, occasus. Many, many nouns of the fourth declension are formed this way. So by knowing the verbs, you'll quickly be able to define the nouns. The next new feature is in line 141. Let's go down to 141, and we have di maris et terrae tempestatumque potentes. This, so the, and ferte will go on. Ferte viam vento facelem et spirate secundi. So the gods, he's praying, he invoked, called upon the gods, gods of the sea and powerful ones of the land and of the storms, bring us an easy path and breathe out with a good or prosperous wind. So here we have potentes, powerful ones. It's from the adjective potens, powerful. So gods of the sea and gods powerful of the land and of the storms. That'd be the literal translation. But figuratively, those having power over the land and the storms. But do note that these are both genitives. We have of the land and of the storms, and that potens is one of those special adjectives that can have a genitive noun with it. The next new feature is in line 156. And here we have inde postquam sol occidit, feci et ignari viae ad oram que clopum advecti sunt. So thence, after the sun set, tired and not knowing the road, or not knowing the path, they were carried to the shore of the Cyclopes. So here the new feature is this genitive viae, which is it goes with the adjective ignarus, just like we just saw potentes taking a genitive noun with it, having power over something in the genitive. Here we have ignarus, not knowing something, in the genitive. Not knowing of, literally, ignorant of the way, or not knowing the path or the way. So ignari being nominative plural, referring to all the companions of Aeneas, and then viae being the genitive singular from via. And line 163, we have a new feature, postero die Paulo ante solis ortum vir ignotus extrema fame confectus et silvis processet atque supplex manus ad litus extendit. Okay, we'll stop there. So on the next day, a little bit before the rising of the sun, an unknown man afflicted with extreme starvation came out of the woods, and as a suppliant extended his hands out toward the shore. So here we have the new feature. Here is this ortum, this fourth declension noun, ortus or tus, meaning arising, but notice that it comes from the verb oriri, to arise. Oriri, ortum esse, to have arisen. So ortum is the supine. Again, remember this is that perfect participle with the neuter ending, that forms, also then can form from this form we can get a fourth declension noun from many verbs. In line 169, we'll have to start here with line 167. We have ubi vestimenta et arma Trojani proculagnovit, Paulum exteritus restitit, sed mox ad litus se contulet cum fletu precebusque. And so when, and this is the guy with the bristly beard who is coming out of the woods toward the Trojan, toward Aeneas and his Trojan companions. So it said when this guy recognized the clothing and the Trojan weapons from afar off, a little bit, somewhat terrified, he stopped. But soon he brought himself to the shore with weeping and with prayers. So here the new feature is in this noun fletu, and now this is our third example of a noun of the fourth declension, and fletus, weeping and of weeping, that comes from a verb, flera, to weep. And again, this form, fletu, is from the supine, and the supine can turn into a fourth declension noun, as we see here. So instead of to weep or having wept, we have with weeping, the noun. The next new feature is in line 171, where we have in quascumque terras abducite. Take me off into whatever lands you want. Quascumque. When you tack on cumque onto the relative pronoun qui quod, you get into whatever one you want, or translated as ever, or any one of them. And when you decline it, it's going to decline just like qui quod plus cumque added on. So declining, for example, the feminine here, quai, we'd have quas cumque, we'd have quai cumque, nominative, quam cumque, accusative, cuius cumque, cui cumque, qua cumque, for our singular, and then plural, quae cumque, quas cumque, that's what we have here, the accusative plural, quas cumque, quarum cumque, quibus cumque, quibus cumque. So notice that it declines just like qui quod, but we add cumque to mean whatever, or whoever, or whichever one. In line 174, we have euabit. So starting with stiperio, stiperio omnem manibus per issa euabit. So if I die, it'll help me to have died by the hands of people, not as opposed to monsters like the Cyclopes. So here, euabit, what's the subject? There is no subject in the sentence. This is an impersonal verb. It will help. It will help me to die, or it'll give me some pleasure at least to have died by the hands of men. The next new feature is in line 181. So let's go here to start with 180. Monstrum infandum est cyclops ille nomina polypemus qui carne et sanguine hominum miserorum vescitur. So that Cyclops named Polyphemus is a horrible monster who vesciturs, who devours the flesh and blood of wretched people or wretched men. So here, vescitur is another one of those puff V verbs, P-U-F-F-V verbs. Vescitur, he devours the ablative of caro, carnis, flesh, and then the ablative of sanguis, sanguinis, blood. The next new feature and last new feature of this chapter is in line 182, where we have egomet vidi eum in medio antro iacentem duos de nostro numero manu prehensos ad saxum frangere ac membre eorum cruenta devorare. So I myself saw him lying in the middle of the cave, shatter on a rock. 2 people grabbed by his hand from our number, and I saw him devour their bloody limbs. So the new feature here is egomet. I, ego, the pronoun, personal pronoun I, plus met, which intensifies the personal pronoun, so I think I translate it as I myself, or you could say I personally saw him, just focusing on the I. It would decline just like ego, so you'd have egomet, nominative, me met, the accusative, mihi met, me met, me met, as your ablative. But just know that the met, it can be added on to other personal pronouns like te met, you can get yourself, focusing on yourself, or all the personal pronouns can add met to emphasize them. Okay. Okay, so those are all of your new features for chapter 38. Thank you for listening.